Hi, everybody. I hope that you are all doing very well. All right. So, I want to talk about Vanessa Pettigrew. Actually, let's be specific. Um, this was day one of the trial of Ingolf Harry Turk. You are going to hear them talking about Harry and Harry Dover. That was a name that Dr. Turk went by, Harry, and I think his phone was listed as Harry Dover. Anyway, so we've already gone over day two. We watched that live as it was happening because the friend was so unusual. His demeanor, he was so crazy anxious. Um, and it turned out he had quite a few secrets. And he had, well, it seemed like he wasn't being completely forthright and honest with the court. And so it left you at the end of day two feeling quite uncomfortable. However, many people were now invested and ready to continue watching the rest of this case. So I went back to watch day one testimony. This is Vanessa Pettigrew, who was a friend of Kathleen McLean. Kathleen McLean being the wife of Dr. Pettigrew, but they'd only been married about 5 months or so. They had been dating for a couple of years, and it was a relationship that was overwhelmed by chaos. I don't think that Dr. Turk had a lot of trust in Kathleen McLean. He kept saying, let's get married, and then he'd back out. Let's get married, he'd back out. And the Kathleen McLean was pushing to get married. And then in the end, once she did get married, then she's having affairs. And I mean, it's just it was a chaotic mess. So I went back out of curiosity. Once we saw day two testimony, I went back and I rewatched the testimony of Vanessa Pettigrew. And I decided it was worth rewatching or watching with you guys, especially Sunday. There's no coverage right now on TV. So I thought it'd be a good idea to rewatch it with the knowledge that she and her friend Kurt Fannenstyle, something like a German name, that she and Kurt and Kathleen McLean, you get the feeling that they knew each other a long time. That is not the story that they're telling on the stand, but you do get this feeling that there's something wrong. There's a secret of some sort. In the same way that Kurt was openly just almost having a nervous breakdown from the anxiety that he was experiencing on the stand, rewatching Vanessa Pettigrew, I get the same feeling from her. There is something, in my opinion, it seems like there's some underlying story that they're somehow maybe protecting Kathleen, or I could be wrong, maybe they are protecting themselves. And it's interesting. It is very interesting. I do think the timeline on Harry Turk's relationship with with Kathleen McLean is super interesting, but we'll never know anything more about it because there's really no verification for when they actually met. This is a case that when you are dealing with a man who is a very well-known, well-respected surgeon, it is strange that he got wrapped up with these people. It is very odd. And you know, there are really horrible people out in the world. You guys know that. There's people that will climb a tree to tell a lie if it fits their manipulation and their narrative. I think there are a handful of YouTube creators that do blatantly lie. And one of those is J is for Justice. And she told a complete bald-faced lie. She said that I contacted the Ruchek family to come and watch one of her lives that she did on Christopher Watts. She knows that's not true. She knows that's a lie. And more importantly, the Ruchek family knows that's absurdity. I don't know any of those people. Never spoke to them other than the night in question. Apparently, Frank Ruchek, the father of Shanann, came into my live because I was furious with J is for Justice and her panel of creepy women. They came into my live and he said something, I don't even remember what it was now, something about evil, there's evil afoot or something like that. And I just apologized, you know, that they were in the channel. But now she's gone on her channel and told her people that I contacted the Rucheks to come and watch J is for Justice's live. And it was so offensive. I mean, she even calls me a bitch, which is hilarious. But Jay, you know, come on, you're such a tough guy, right? You like to play that role. Why don't you just take responsibility for yourself? If you were doing a lie that was or if you were doing a live that was insensitive and offensive, which it actually was, Jamie was incredibly offensive during that live to the Ruchek family and the memory of Shanann. If you're going to do that, just own it. Don't blame it on me. I don't know any of those people. You're the one that buddies up with them. And everybody on the YouTube streets knows how you operate. So stop with your nonsense. It was hilarious when I heard you say that I called them. That's so dumb. Anyway, yeah, I don't know any of, I would be horrified to reach out to a family member of a murdered child or a murdered daughter or son. No, not my style, not anything I have any interest in. No, no, to interfere in someone as they're grieving and they're in trauma. Oh my gosh. You know, I know journalists need to do that, you know, and that's their profession. It is not my profession. So no, I don't know those people. They'll tell you I don't know them. It's funny that she had to say that, but she did. And that's all right. Whatever weird thing she's talking about, I don't know, but I did not. She lied to y'all, basically. All right. So there's some funny business, I think, between Kathleen McLean, Kurt, Fenn and Steele, and then Vanessa Pettigrew. And just very quickly, Dr. Ingolf Harry Tuerk has admitted to choking and killing Kathleen McLean. He then weighted her body down with rocks in a pond. He went to a hotel room where he proceeded to get very intoxicated. He was taking opiates, and somehow the help came and they gave him Narcan and saved his life. And when he was in the hospital recovering, he admitted to all that took place. And it is a terrible tale. It is a true fall from grace where this man was on top of the world, brilliant career, and this woman came into his life, and these things began to happen, and suddenly he's bottomed out. So it's a terrible, really tragic, sad tale. She had a couple of kids. He had a couple of young teenagers from a previous marriage. She did want her kids to have a good life. And according to Vanessa, Katie was trying to make good choices to benefit her children. And the relationship between Kathleen and Ingolf Tuerk was so chaotic that it was not peaceful for anyone. So that is where I think, let me see if there was another friend involved. Oh yeah, Danielle Boland. She was in a couple of media interviews. She said that Kathleen McLean was an angel. Kurt Fahnenstiel was who we listened to in the day 2 video. It seemed he was having an affair with McLean. And so what we're going to listen to now is Vanessa Pettigrew. This was day 1 of the testimony. And she knows an awful lot about the couple's history. And she was a very, very close friend. So that is where we stand. Hold on 1 minute here. All right. Let me get okay, so we got the video up. So we are ready to go. There is the introduction. That is where we will begin. I'm going to turn this up a little bit. Let's see. All right, and if you can hear this and it sounds okay, put a 1, please.
Studies to show to be effective in PubMed, and it's readily researchable now.
So when you met Katie in 2015, she was practicing Reiki?
Yes, she was.
Where was she doing that?
She was doing that in her practice in Marlborough, her office.
Did Katie have any children when you met her?
Yes, Katie has 3 children.
So I guess I should back up a little bit. You met Katie when you were a client of hers while she was doing Reiki.
Yes.
Did your relationship continue outside of Reiki?
Yes, I actually had maybe 1 or 2 sessions with her, and then I felt comfortable from there on taking things on my own, and we became really good friends and actually sort of an apprentice at one point. So we had a very close relationship.
Okay. And you said when you met Katie, she had 3 children?
Yes.
Was she married at the time that you met her?
Yes, she was married at the time I met her.
Who was she married to?
She was married to Chris Foley.
Is Chris Foley the father of her children?
No.
Who is?
That is Stephen Rocca.
And where was she living when she was married to Chris Foley?
She was living in Sudbury.
Did her children live with her?
Yes, they did.
At some point, did she divorce Chris Foley?
Yes, she did.
Where did she live after that?
She lived in Sudbury in her own home.
Okay, welcome. When I started this video, I had it set to private. So my whole introduction, y'all didn't hear that, but you can go back. I didn't say anything of interest other than this is Vanessa Pettigrew. This is the very good friend to Kathleen McLean. Kathleen McLean was murdered, or I guess I should say killed, by her husband, Ingolf Harry Tuerk. And he admitted to doing it, but it was an act of it was like a manslaughter, temporary insanity type of defense. He readily admitted it to the police, and they have charged him with murder, but the defense is I was temporarily insane. I was attacked first. She did hit me with a glass across my face, and so that's where we are. The first video that we listened to was actually day 2 of the testimony, and that was Kurt Pfannenstiel. And we all got the feeling that there was something very shady about Kurt. He's a strange character. And as I thought more about his testimony and Dr. Tuerk's reaction, I got more curious, and I went back and re-listened to day 1, which is this woman, Vanessa Pettigrew. And I found her too, on hindsight, it seems that she is protecting some information. I think this group is very curious. I'm not sure they're being honest. So I decided we would watch this, and then tomorrow, Monday, will be day 3 of the trial.
Who did she live with?
She lived with her 3 children.
And are you familiar with Ingolf Tuerk?
Yes, I am.
How did you meet him?
I met Harry through Katie around November.
So you said Harry. Is that how you knew him?
Yes, his nickname was Harry.
Okay. And you said that you met Harry through Katie. Is that right?
That's right.
Had you been friends with Katie when she met Mr. Tuerk?
Can you repeat that?
So you had been friends with Katie when she met Mr. Tuerk. Is that right?
I was friends with Katie much prior to meeting Mr. Tuerk. That's right.
How did they meet, if you know?
They met through online dating.
And do you see Mr. Tuerk in the courtroom?
Yes, I do.
Could you please identify him by an article of clothing?
Yes, he's wearing a blue tie.
Your Honor, could the record please reflect identification?
Yes.
Okay. How often did you communicate with Katie during your friendship with her?
Katie and I talked almost every day by text and by phone.
How often would you see her physically?
We got to be pretty close. We would see each other on weekends pretty often.
How much time did you spend with Katie and the defendant when they were together?
The same amount of time. It was nice. We watched football games together. We had really great cookouts and times together as friends.
How often do you think that you spent time with the two of them together?
At least a couple times a month.
Would you speak with the defendant separately from Katie?
I would, yes.
How often would you say?
Less. Our relationship was a little bit different. Katie and I were very close on multiple different ways. Harry and I became colleagues, and so we would talk mostly about work.
So can we talk a little bit about that? How did you and Harry become colleagues?
I applied to St. Elizabeth Medical Center as a surgical technologist, and I had a coworker that already worked there. Her name was Patricia McNamee, and she was the VP of perioperative services that I worked prior with her at Beth Israel. And so I applied there. I let Harry know I applied, and that's how the position started.
Why did you let Harry know when you applied to St. Elizabeth's?
Harry was a surgeon there.
And do you know in what field?
Yes, he was the chief of urology.
When did
the
you?
Surgery department.
Oh, thank you. When did you get your job at St. Elizabeth's?
It was around 2018 that I recall.
Would you see Harry during your work shifts?
I saw him almost daily, if not face to face. I saw him working. He worked almost 4 days a week in surgery. And I was in the OR with him on occasion.
About how many times were you in the OR with him?
Off the top of my head, at least 20, if not more.
And how was the defendant referred to while he was at work?
Most people called him Harry or Dr. Tuerk.
You stated that Katie was living in Sudbury after she had divorced Chris Foley. Is
Yes,
that right?
That's right.
Was she living there when she met the defendant?
Yes, she was. She had a lovely house in Sudbury.
At some point, did her living situation change?
Yes, she decided to move in with Ingolf Tuerk
Where was that?
in Dover, Massachusetts, on 26 Valley Road.
You said 26 Valley Road?
29 Valley Road. Sorry,
Thank you.
excuse me.
And who was living in the house at that time when Katie moved in?
When Katie moved in, Harry had his 2 children, and also Katie's children moved in as well.
Were the defendant's children living in the house full-time?
Part-time. Their mother lived in Dover as well.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that?
The children that Harry had, mother lived in Dover as well.
So there was shared custody between the defendant's children, is that right?
Yes.
When Katie moved into the defendant's home at 29 Valley Road, what was the status of their relationship? Were they married?
When they moved in?
Yes.
They were dating with the idea of getting engaged.
Did they get married?
Yes, they did.
When was that?
It was in December.
Were you at the wedding?
I was not. It was in Vegas.
How did that come about, if you know?
They had been talking about getting married for a long time in their relationship, and they had talked back and forth about getting married in Vegas a number of times. So on this occasion, it was just kind of a surprise for the family and all of us that they got married in Vegas. And, you know, the kids got along really well, so it made sense at the time.
Were the kids at the wedding in Vegas, if you know?
Not that I know of.
So it was just the 2 of them that went on a vacation and ended up getting married?
Yep, private moment. Mm-hmm.
And after they got married, did they continue to live at 29 Valley Road?
They did.
Turning your attention to February 3rd of 2020, did Katie obtain a 209A restraining order against the defendant?
Yes, she did.
As a condition of that restraining order, did the defendant have to leave 29 Valley Road?
Yes, he did.
Where did he go, if you know?
He went to first a colleague, a friend, Charles Lax. He went to another place in Dover, and then he eventually, I think, went to Florida to live with Bob from Stewart. He had a camper in Florida that he was staying in.
How often were you communicating with Katie at that point?
Pretty much daily.
How would you communicate with her?
Mostly by text and also by phone.
What types of things would you and Katie talk about?
We would talk about her day to day, you know, the weather. We would talk about COVID because it was COVID at the time. We would talk about anything and everything, fashion, nails, literally everything that a friend would talk to a good friend about, her family, her kids. I feel like I knew the kids myself very well. She would send me videos of the kids.
Would you talk about your relationships?
Yes.
And in February 3rd, or around February of 2020, after the defendant had moved out of the house, were they taking steps towards divorce, if you know?
They were, yes.
At some point in April of 2020, did that change?
Yes, there was a change. Harry had sent an email through his lawyer to reconcile.
And was Katie considering that?
She was going back and forth. She was uncertain, but conflicted. She had to weigh the pros and cons. She was very concerned about her children having a normal, stable life. She wanted the best for her kids. That's all she wanted.
And did they move towards reconciliation, if you know?
They did.
And how did that happen?
Like I said, Harry's lawyer reached out that he wanted to reconcile, and they started the process. I believe there was a prenuptial agreement, and there were several things that they had to decide upon with each other that they would do moving forward to make it work, including having Dr. Tuerk undergo some psychiatric help and to refrain from alcohol.
Excuse me. Sustained. Please disregard that. That last answer is stricken. Next question, please.
So when they began reconciliation or talking about reconciliation, where was Katie and her children living at that time?
Katie and her children were living in Dover.
And where was the defendant living?
He was living in a hotel in Dedham.
Prior to coming to the hotel in Dedham, where was he living, if you know?
As far as I know, he was living in Florida, and he had come up from that trip by car.
Did he drive himself, if you know?
Katie helped him.
And how is that?
He had some back pain, and he felt like he couldn't do the drive alone. So she, out of the kindness of her heart, obviously wanted to help him. And she drove to meet him halfway. And I believe Mr. Rocca also went as well to help make the transition of cars.
Mr. Rocca being the children's father, is that right?
That's right.
Okay. When the defendant came back from Florida and was staying in the hotel in Dedham, was Katie seeing him?
Can you repeat that?
When the defendant came back from Florida and was staying at that Dedham hotel, was Katie seeing him at that time?
Yes, she would bring him food. It was COVID. It was very difficult to get supplies and food, and she would supply him with his dinners or something to eat.
Was him coming to Dedham just another step in reconciliation?
Yeah, it was a way to safely try things out and to, maintain the relationship.
Turning your attention to May 15th of 2020, do you remember that day?
Yes, I do.
What happened?
I received a text message from our friend Kurt
What's Kurt's last name?
Steele.
And what was the text message that you received?
I received a message believed to be from Harry, and he made a kind of alarming statement to Kurt, and we didn't really know exactly what it meant.
So I think I'm going to back you up just a little bit. Approximately what time was the first text message that you received from your friend Kurt?
It was around 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. And what was that first text message that you received, if you can recall?
I remember the context of the message. It basically said, "Sorry, brother," and said that Katie was a devil, and she manipulated everybody.
Prior to receiving that text message, did you receive another text message from Kurt?
I'm not sure which text you'd be referring to.
Is your memory exhausted as to the text messages that you first received from Kurt on May 15th of 2020?
Yes.
Would it be helpful to review your text messages?
Sure.
Thank you. Your Honor, these have been pre-marked as exhibits. Once I show the exhibit to the witness, may I display them on the screen?
Yes, no objection,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Reddington? Of course not. You may.
And if you could just look at exhibit 147 to yourself and read it and let me know when your memory is refreshed.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. And what was that first text message that you received from Kurt?
He was asking me to call him as soon as possible.
And what else did he say?
He said we might have a popcorn situation.
What did that mean to you?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't hear it. We might have a what situation?
We might have a popcorn situation.
Okay, thank you.
And what did that mean to you?
Objection. Overall, she can answer it.
Popcorn was a code word if Katie needed anything from Kurt and I immediately, that we would be able to respond to her as soon as possible.
When you first got those two messages in the early morning hours of May 15th, how did you feel?
Objection.
I felt,
Stay. Next question.
Okay. Ms. Gilman, could you please put exhibit 147 on the screen? And if you could move up just a little bit.
There's a bit of a glare. Could we possibly turn the lights down a little bit? Is that better, Jerry? Okay, all right. Thank you.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could just move the screen down a little bit, thank you. And Ms. Pettigrew, are those the two messages that you received from Kurt on May 15th?
yes, they are.
Okay. And did you receive a third text message from him?
Yes.
And what was the third text message that you received from him?
The third text message was a copy of a text from Harry.
And what did that text message say?
That text message said, "I'm sorry, brother. Katie's the devil, and she manipulated all of us."
Ms. Gilman, could you please move down to page 2? And there's a text message in green on page 2 of exhibit 147. Is that the text that you received from Kurt that morning?
Yes.
And what does it say?
"Kurt, I am sorry, brother.
If you need to refer to the exhibit in front of you, if that's easier to read, I know the screen is somewhat far away. I apologize for that.
Kurt, I am sorry, brother, but she is a vindictive devil. She played us all. I am really sorry, brother, but she manipulated us all. Love you, Harry.
After receiving that text message, what did you do?
After receiving this text message, I tried reaching out to Katie, and me and my husband, we got into the car and we tried to, the first thing we thought of was, and what I thought of was to check on the children.
And where did you go?
We went to the house at 29 Valley Road.
When you got to the house, what, if any, cars did you see there?
I didn't see any cars.
What did
So some of you guys are, okay, so like this question of she's blinking a lot, and as long here, I mean, this was my experience. When she's talking to the prosecutor, in other words, the person that's on her side, so to speak, things seem to be okay, pretty even. But as soon as the defense attorney gets up and begins to question, things get really weird, really strange. So pay close attention to her baseline as she's talking to the prosecutor and they're both on the same team. And then watch how much it changes as the defense begins to question her.
you do when you got to 29 Valley Road?
And I do have it, I think I've got it on I've got it on 1.25 just so we can try to get through it a little bit faster, okay?
I rang and knocked on the front door several times. We didn't get an answer. So we got back in the car and we tried to find where Harry's hotel was.
How did you do that?
We knew it was in Dedham and we just tried which hotel we thought it might be.
What happened while you were looking for the hotel that the defendant was staying at?
I was able to see the two cars from the home at the hotel, and I knew that was the right location. There was a Jeep and a Mercedes parked there.
What did you do when you saw the Jeep and the Mercedes parked there?
I took a picture of both, and then I went inside, and
I'm going to stop you there. Ms. Gilman, could you please put Exhibit 118 on the screen?
And question, why, if you're simply looking for your friend, if you don't really have any indication that there is a problem between she and her husband, Dr. Tuerk, why would you take a photograph of the two cars before you even saw her or went up to the door? Why would you take the photograph? What do you guys think? What would be the purpose of photographing that your friend's vehicles are in the parking lot of the hotel where her husband is staying because he has been kicked out of the house? Why would she do that? Except if she's expecting trouble. And I don't know the answer. I just thought, what a weird reaction. But, I mean, maybe with the comment about the whole popcorn deal, which I thought was strange too, you come up with what amounts to a safe word just days before, and then you say, oh, we've got a popcorn situation. It seems so contrived. It seems very odd. Hey, Martian Planet, maybe the deceased told her something she should be aware of. Perhaps, and again, remember when we watched day 2 with Kurt, the group just seems off. They just seem very odd.
If you could just move, thank you very much. And looking at Exhibit 118, could you please describe what that is?
That is the Jeep that they had.
Is that the photograph you took when you went to the hotel in the early morning hours of May 15th?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, could you please put Exhibit 117 up on the screen? Thank you. And what is depicted in this photograph?
A Mercedes.
And whose Mercedes?
Okay, so why did she take those photographs at the hotel? Why? It's so bizarre.
Is that?
That is also one of the family vehicles.
And was that in the parking lot in Dedham on the early morning hours of May 15th?
Yes, they were next to each other.
To your knowledge, who normally drove the Jeep?
Harry liked the Jeep, so Harry would drive the Jeep.
What about the Mercedes?
Often
Okay,
Katie would drive.
and this is a funny question. What a bizarre way to answer this question. Who drove the Jeep? Oh, well, Harry liked the Jeep, so he drove the Jeep. Excuse me, Vanessa. It was his Jeep. He purchased the Jeep before he married Kathleen. Why are you qualifying that? It's his Jeep. Of course he would drive it. Of course he likes it. It's his.
Drive it, but they would occasionally switch up the vehicles.
When Harry was living in Florida, which car was Katie driving?
She was
If you know, if you don't remember, that's fine.
she was mostly driving the Jeep, but I don't recall which in particular.
Thank you.
So remember this from day 2. He's with her for 2 years. He keeps setting up a marriage and then canceling it. He does that multiple times. Finally, when they're in Las Vegas, they go through a drive-through where they get married. 5 months later, she's dead. What happened between December and her death? Well, within just weeks of getting married, she calls the cops and says that she is the victim of domestic violence and that she wants a restraining order and she wants him kicked out of the house. His house, mind you, the house that he owned before she came along. It was also his Jeep before she became involved. It was during COVID, and when she had him kicked out of the house, he had nowhere to go. He wasn't working because there had been some erroneous or mistaken billing errors for Medicaid, or I'm sorry, Medicare. So literally the wedding happens, or it's not a wedding, they go get married. She now has a wedding certificate, and he has lost his home, his job, his business. He's under investigation. He has nowhere to live. It's COVID, and the people that had been his friends, meaning her friends, Vanessa and Kurt, they refuse to help him. They will not give him a place to live. He even asked Kathleen, this is unbelievable. He even asked Kathleen McLean if he could live in the basement of his own house. And she said no. Now, eventually, she makes a deal with him. And the deal is, you have to put me on the lease of the title of the house. You have to make me half owner of your $500,000 house. She even asked the attorney when they were getting the documents together about this whole, basically she's stealing half of his house. And she says, well, if he dies, do I get everything? This is within months of them being married. They were not even honeymooning for even 3 months. It's like she got that legal piece of paper and it was all over. His life went to shit. So keep that in mind. This is a weird case.
So you stated that you found the hotel in Dedham, but when you found the vehicles in the parking lot, is that right?
Yes.
After you snapped those 2 pictures that we just saw, what did you do?
I went in, and I'd like to remind everyone that it was COVID time, so it was a little bit awkward.
And when you say awkward, what do you mean?
People weren't supposed to be talking to each other, like, gathering or anything like that. So it was just an awkward time for everyone. So to be like looking for someone and trying to find someone, it was just a little bit awkward. So I went up to the clerk.
Remember, they were in Connecticut, right? Wasn't it Connecticut? No, Massachusetts. I'm sorry, got my cases mixed up. They were in Massachusetts, which would have been a very things would have been really shut down in Massachusetts. Some of the more conservative states, the states that had conservative governors and whatnot, like Texas and Florida, they didn't have that same level of lockdown. They had it for a little while, but didn't last as long as some of the other states. So Massachusetts would have been one of those states, like California, where, it would have been quite difficult to be able to find a hotel room. It would have been very difficult to find a restaurant open, things like that. So I do think it is very interesting that he chose Florida to escape to when he couldn't find anybody that would let him have a place to live. He went to Florida. At least he was able to get a hotel room and be able to, go to the grocery store and such. So I thought that was, interesting in the wider scope of the story.
Clerk at the front desk, and I asked if they could ring the room of Harry Tuerk.
And what happened then?
They rang the room multiple times and nobody picked up. And I was very frustrated. I couldn't reach my friend because I thought she was in there because the car was there. So then I went back to the house at 29 Valley Road, and I tried to make sure the kids were okay again for a second time. And I went to the side door, the glass door this time.
So you said that when you went to the hotel, you were sort of frustrated because you couldn't get in touch with your friend when they were ringing the room. Is that right?
That's right.
Which friend are you referring to?
Katie.
Were you trying to get in touch with her in any other way during this time period?
Yeah, phone calls, text messages. It was not like her.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
It was not like her to not answer repeated texts or phone calls.
And when you say phone calls, that would be to her cell phone, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So after you left the hotel when you could not find Katie, you said you returned to 29 Valley Road, is that right?
I did.
Then what happened?
I knocked on the side door, which was glass, and that leads into the kitchen. And I saw Sam there. And
Who's Sam?
Sam is her son.
Okay. And approximately how old was Sam at the time, if you know?
I don't remember. Maybe 13 around.
Okay. And what happened when you found Sam in the kitchen?
I think I startled him. I was frantically looking for his mom at that point. And I asked him for the phone number of his dad. And I also asked him if all the kids were in the house. And he said, yes, they were upstairs.
Did you see any of the other children at that time?
I did not. They were upstairs. And my goal was to get the phone number for the dad and just make sure everybody was in the house.
So you said that you entered the house through the side door and you were in the kitchen, is that right?
Yes.
Did you go in any other rooms in the house?
I did not.
Ms. Gilman, could you please place Exhibit 148 on the screen? And what is depicted in Exhibit 148?
That is the house at 29 Valley Road.
Your Honor, may I approach, please?
Yes.
I'm handing you a laser pointer.
Okay.
So you have to press this button. If you could please show the jury, you stated that you originally went to the front door. If you could just show us where the front door is located at 29 Valley Road.
I don't know if it's reaching.
It will, just move it around. Thank you.
This is the front door.
And when you returned the second time after you had been to the hotel, you said that you went to the side door?
Mhm.
You can show us where that side door
The
is.
side door was over on this side.
And that led directly into the kitchen?
Yes.
Is the side door in between the garage and the house?
It was in the back. It was in the back of the house. Like they had a patio and things like that in the back. And
I'm going to go ahead and go on through this because the information doesn't really help or aid in understanding the story of what happened, because Kathleen nor Harry were even at the house. It was just her teenage kids.
the door, because that was a locked door, and Sam opened it up.
Thank you. Able to get Mr. Roca's phone number, is that right?
Yes.
What did you do at that time?
I had gone home and I took a couple minutes to kind of gather myself and think about what to say to the father. And I told him that the kids were home alone. I couldn't find Katie, and I didn't know what was going on, but it would be a good idea to do a wellness check.
And at that point, did your conversation with Stephen Roca end?
I sent him the pictures of the two cars of where I thought they were, or where now I knew they were. And I had also, I think, sent the text from Kurt that made me more alarmed to think that they needed a wellness check.
And at that point, did you stay at your home after you had alerted Mr. Roca to the situation?
Yes, I did. I took a shower, and then I tried to kind of like look at places where Katie might have gone if she, just needed like some time by herself, where she might be.
At some point that evening of May 15th of 2020, did you go to the Dover police station?
I did.
Why did you do that?
By that time, Stephen had called me and told me that something was going on with Harry, that he was being brought out by an ambulance, and he was like, what is going on? And the Dover police had been involved, and the Dedham police had been involved at that point. And then the Dover police called us in for Kurt and I for a statement.
Did you give them anything else while you were at the Dover police station?
Yes, I gave them my phone because I thought it would help find Katie quicker.
And did you consent to an extraction of your cell phone?
I did.
Was that done to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Okay, now watch the
Does anybody
demeanor
need to break yours
change.
before cross-examination? Okay, all right, go ahead, Mr. Arrington.
Gets very odd.
Towards the end.
Do you agree with me that you and Ms. McLean communicated on a literally daily basis from 2014 or 15 up to 2020?
Roughly daily. I mean, yes.
And you'd agree with me that your communications on a daily basis were really pretty much consumed most of the day, which you talk morning, you talk afternoon, you talk late afternoon, you talk evening, late evening.
Depend on what was going on. Obviously, we have jobs,
Right.
family matters,
So
activities.
how many
So
texts
weird.
do you believe over that period of time? Would you agree with me that 2014 or 15 you first made contact with Ms. McLean?
Around 2015.
And from 2015 until 2020, would you agree with me that you had almost 12,000 pages of text messages between yourself and Katie?
I can't confirm how many pages. I've never seen them printed out,
Okay.
but there was a lot of text messages.
A lot of
Yes.
text messages, yeah.
Mhm.
And when the police were investigating this case in the very beginning, did they ask you to sign a document to
They
get
did.
access to your phone?
They did.
And did they seize your phone?
They did not seize my phone.
Did they look at your phone?
They did.
Did you have any text messages from yourself and Katie? For the 12,000 pages worth or one? Did you have any text messages between the two of you on your phone?
Yes, we had text messages between us on my phone.
And going how far back?
As far as I know, they started in 2015.
So your testimony would be that you did not delete any text messages with Katie. Is that right?
I don't recall which text messages were deleted or not deleted.
Okay. You started to get involved with this investigation on the 20th of May when you called the police and indicated that you had been to the house and that you could not find Katie. Is that correct?
I didn't call the police. Mr. Roca did, but I made a statement at the police department in Dover.
And when you went to the police department in Dover, do you recall how many times, if you remember, that you spoke to the police investigators from Dover Police Department? Once or twice? Because you gave an interview, right?
I gave an interview, yes.
All right. Do you remember the date that you gave them the interview?
It was on the date that she was missing.
Do you recall when you spoke with, was it Trooper Jeffrey Kotkowski that you spoke to? If you remember.
I don't remember his last name. I remember speaking to an officer
Okay,
in
so
the
you don't-
Dover
that's
PD
all right, you don't
department.
remember his last name. That's fine. And you told the police in that investigation what you knew about the relationship she had with Harry Tuerk, correct?
Yes,
Now, you knew Harry Tuerk because actually he had done surgery on your father, right?
that is completely incorrect.
You did not do surgery on your father.
No, he did not.
So you said you did surgery on your father?
No.
So when you first met Harry Tuerk, it would be through Katie McLean, Kathleen McLean?
Yes, it was through Katie McLean.
And you knew that, and she introduced you to Harry, right?
Yes,
She told you that Harry was a surgeon at St. E's, right?
that's right.
Were you working at St. E's at the time?
I was not.
You wanted, however, to work at St. E's, correct?
Yes, one of my prior colleagues was working there and Harry was working there, so
Your answer is yes, correct?
yes.
Do you recall speaking to Ms. McLean and asking whether or not she'd talk to Harry about getting you a job there?
I think it's normal for people who are getting a job to get recommendations, so yes, that's something I would do.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's not what you know, who you know, as they say, right? I mean, if you know somebody, that's fine. You can reach out and they can help you out, right?
Mhm.
And that's what he did, right? Yes? You're nodding your
Yes.
head? And he got you the job at St. E's, right? And you were a good worker?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes,
And on occasion, you even worked with him, right?
I did.
And you had occasion to observe his surgical techniques, right?
Absolutely.
And in your text messages, you actually, on one occasion, indicated that his surgery was music.
Yes, it was.
And it was fun to watch. It was interesting to watch him act as a surgeon because he did a damn good job at it, right?
Absolutely.
When you met Katie, when you first started talking with Ms. McLean, would you agree with me that one of the things that you two would talk about was her concerns that Harry was having relationships with other women online or offline, right?
That topic came up.
It came up about 1,000 times, right? Wasn't just come up once, it came up all the time, right?
I think the culture of hospitals is that there's some questions about relationships that goes on.
Okay. Well, I mean, she
does
would
that
reach out
mean?
to you in your text messages, for example.
What does that mean? What'd she just say? She said everybody at hospitals are all having affairs. That is categorically untrue. What an odd comment to make. These are some curious people.
Example, you recall in the beginning portion of your relationship would be page 1710 on the texts, that she sent you a message saying that she is
Objection.
text.
All right, first of all, is there a date on that, Mr. Reddington?
You have 1710 on this. August 6th,
Of what year?
2018. Beginning of their relationship.
Can you show Ms. Beatty and Ms. McLaughlin, please?
Could we approach, please?
Yes, we can approach.
Bring the laptop.
I would have told him, don't stand up, whatever you do. He's an enormous guy. Makes it really hard to be sympathetic to him. She did not do justice for her friend. June, I don't think she did either. I think she and Kurt are some pretty odd people. Very, very strange. I don't think that her demeanor is as unusual as Kurt, but it's still kind of odd, right? And I'm going to fast forward through this. Thank y'all for being here and watching this with me. I appreciate it. Tomorrow will be day 3 of the trial. I know everybody is, logged on, locked in on the big cases. But I just thought this was one that it kind of didn't get the attention that it should have, I think. It is very interesting. And of course, now every grifter is starting to focus on Kohberger because that trial's coming up. They'll be able to make a lot of money with that trial. It's kind of pitiful.
All rise, please. Jurors entering.
Can we bring the witness in?
Okay, Ms. Pettigrew, come back up.
All jurors present, may be seated.
All right, so jurors, I just want to give you an instruction. You're going to hear this witness testify about statements that were allegedly made to her by Katie McLean. Those statements are only offered for a limited purpose. That is, to show the state of mind of Katie McLean around the time of the alleged event in the relationship. You may only consider those statements, that is, to Ms. McLean's state of mind, only if you find that the defendant was aware of her state of mind. You may not consider the statements for the truth of what is asserted in those statements.
Thank you. So, Ms. Pettigrew, I'm going to ask you if you recall the content of these text messages in your communications with Ms. McLean. Do you recall that she indicated to you that she found in his cell phone a woman that he had an affair 14 years ago, Kate Kelly?
I remember the name Kate Kelly.
Okay, she was from New Hampshire, right? Yes?
Yes.
And do you remember that Kate McLean was very upset about the fact that she found that contact in Harry's phone? Talk to you about it. The two of you sent texts back and forth.
I remember conversations about the name Kate Kelly.
And the conversations basically were that Kate McLean was very upset about that, right?
As far as I knew, she was trying to figure out what was going on.
Right. And she told you that she found that by looking in his phone, right?
I don't recall that particular aspect of her looking in the phone.
Do you recall her further into the conversations indicating that she texted him, "I know because I have his phone"? Do you recall her telling you that?
I don't recall that specific text.
And Harry emailed an open position.
To me, the way she's acting and the way she's answering, it's like she's trying to figure out why he would be asking her these questions. Like she's rather than just answering and giving factual responses, like she's going, okay, this is weird. I wasn't expecting these questions. What could this be about?
Position at St. E's along the same time for you to get that job, right? You recall that?
There was a job fair where multiple people could come.
Do you recall
Exactly,
that there was a
Nancy
text-
Greer.
Excuse me. Do you recall sending a text to her, 1723, indicating that Harry emailed you an open position at St. E's? Email. Yes or no? Do you recall it?
I recall the job fair.
What's a job fair? Other people help?
It's where anybody can come
Right.
and
Do you have a problem with acknowledging that Harry actually emailed you an open position, information about an open position?
no, I just don't recall that specific
Okay.
email.
So that's the
I
answer.
remember the job fair that he
That's the
forwarded
answer,
me.
is you don't recall. It's easy.
Okay.
You don't recall. Do you recall that she was upset and texted you that Harry was going to lend a friend $200,000, and she was very upset about him depleting his assets?
Sustained.
Did you have text messages and oral conversations with her about how much money Harry had?
Sustained.
Oh,
Do you recall her indicating?
you see her getting uncomfortable. The minute he asked about money, about the $200,000 that he would loan to a friend, and Kathleen got really angry about the $200,000, she, Vanessa, she is now on guard. She sees now something is up that she was not expecting.
Indicating that he, not her, was a dating site addict and he needed the rush.
Objection.
Oh,
Look at her. She doesn't know what's happening.
I remember both of them talking about dating sites.
Okay. And do you recall her indicating that, in her opinion, he was a dating site addict and needed the rush?
I don't remember those terms, but they did talk about the dating sites. It often comes up in new relationships, whether or not to
Okay, so,
stop the dating sites or not.
right, yeah, you've answered that.
Yeah, you're not the expert witness. That wasn't the question. Why is she answering like she is a voice of authority?
Do you recall?
That's pretty common.
Okay, so let's do it this way. I ask a question, you answer, okay?
Mhm.
Thank you. So do you recall indicating to her I guess maybe I should work for Harry. You need a spy. Do you remember saying that to her?
Overall.
Are you talking about a joke?
The other one that said it.
Are you talking about a joke? That
Do you
was,
remember saying it?
I remember a joke passed between Katie and I.
Now she's going to say that her words about spying on Harry was a joke. You've got to realize she, Kathleen, and Kurt all knew one another before they got involved with Harry or Dr. Tuerk. And this, what is Ruko? That was Kathleen's ex-husband. And he is facilitating Kathleen being with Dr. Tuerk. To me, it's like they chose Dr. Tuerk, and then they have this conspiracy. They have this plan in place to get cash from him. And, that didn't even occur to me until I saw Kurt testify. And when he finished and I went back and I watched this, and then it was just like a light bulb went off in my head. I think they're scared. I think they were up to no good. And the things that they were doing to Dr. Tuerk drove him crazy.
And the joke was what? That you were going to be a spy for her?
I remember a joke like that. Yes.
Okay. What did you mean?
It's just a joke.
Like what? I don't get the joke. What joke? What was the joke?
It's just a joke between friends.
Okay. And what was the joke?
That if you know where someone is and you are spending time with them, that you would, tell them what you saw.
Right. And she was very active on tracking websites as well, tracking his whereabouts. Isn't that right? That you knew about overall.
I think both of them did that.
Okay.
So
Look, the question is, were you aware of...
See, she doesn't want to say, yes, Kathleen was tracking Dr. Tuerk because she knows it's a problem. Well, why would she think it was a problem? A lot of women who think that their men, or vice versa, men thinking their wives are cheating, they use tracking software. That's not unusual. But for some reason, she is nervous about that answer. Was it a plan? Did she intentionally try to get a job in Harry's office to keep an eye on him, to facilitate the relationship with Kathleen? Kathleen is using sexual manipulation of Dr. Tuerk, even as she's still in her affair with Kurt. This was a mess.
Them discussing anything about tracking websites. Yes or no?
they tracked each other.
They track each other. Okay.
Yes.
So you know that she actually, you recall sending her a text saying, you got to get off that tracking thing? She felt that it was interfering with your relationship?
I say that to parents that track their children all the time as well. There's a lot of helicopter parents
Okay, so
out
the
there.
question is, again, if you can focus, I apologize if I confused you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall any conversations about the tracking app that she was using, ruining their relationship?
As far as I know, they were both using it, and people
Can you
use
just
it for
answer
their
the
kids.
question?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Now, do you recall that she then, at the same time
Why
frame,
is she
moving up for a
smiling?
month or so, indicated that Dina friended him on Facebook and that he deleted the account. I went into his phone. Do you recall her saying anything like that to you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know who Dina was?
I don't remember Dina. There was only so many I could keep track of.
Are you
So many
sure you don't remember
So many
Dina? I think you
People
do,
that Harry
lady.
knew.
Oh, how about the guys that she knew? How many guys did she know that you knew about?
Sustained.
Did you know she was on the dating websites?
Objection.
Overall.
I think most people that go on dating websites date multiple people.
Oh, she's an expert witness again.
She, McLean, was on dating websites.
Both of them were on dating websites, so yes.
Do you know?
Wow,
that
lady.
She was on dating
Yes.
websites. And you know that she was receiving photographs of men, various stages of dress.
And I'm not sure that this is a big deal, but I did think that it was curious. Look how she's holding on to the edge of that desk. I guess we would call it, I mean, it's the witness stand, but it's kind of a weird desk, right? Look at her holding on to the edge of it. Isn't that a bit odd? Wouldn't you? I mean, maybe not. I think for me, I would have my hands in my lap. When I saw her holding on to it and grasping it, like a couple of times, she's hanging on to it like white knuckle. Is that anxiety? Is that nervousness? This gets so weird.
More on dating websites, so yes.
You know.
Yes.
that thank you. She was on
Yes.
website. And you know that she was receiving photographs of men, various stages of dress, exercise equipment, beaches, things of that nature. You know that, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
That's the nature of online
Okay,
dating.
listen, just take a
Listen
moment
to
before
her.
you answer the question to see if there's an objection, okay? Thank you.
That's the
How
nature
about
of
the
online
dates that she went
dating.
on? You remember the dentist from New Hampshire, right?
Objection, Your Honor, may we,
Well, they were,
Sustained.
may we approach?
Yes.
Now the prosecutor's freaked out. Look at her. Look at her face. Yes, Vanessa. What's the secret? What did you and Kurt do? Okay, I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to peek in the chat. Who's got an opinion? Because this gets weird. What's happening here that this girl is afraid to answer questions about Kathleen tracking Harry, her working in the office with Harry and spying on him, Kathleen dating many men, even as she's sexually going over. But you're going to find out in the testimony that Kathleen was playing sex games with Dr. Tuerk, like manipulation types of tactics. Think Jodi Arias. Remember that chick? The truth is that some people with certain types of personality disorders, they do look at sex as a tool, and they can create a great deal of chaos in their machinations to try to be exploitative and manipulative. And it wouldn't be the first time that a low income kind of person targeted a high net worth individual and manipulated them with the express goal of getting their hands on money or property. That wouldn't be the first time. Like, there's some pretty low life people, liars. I mean, we even have our own special brand of liars right here on YouTube, don't we? Jay. A witness who is likable and upfront is more accepted by the jury, even on a subconscious level. Yeah, in fact, Nancy, I didn't even think anything about this until she started her strange refusing to answer the question, double speak, acting as if she is the expert witness giving professional opinions on dating, accepted dating behavior. I mean, it got weird real fast, not because I had any reason to believe that she was not being honest, but because it was clear that she is actually being deceitful. She's literally not answering the question, which, like you say, Nancy, then I'm like, okay, chickadee, what's your tale? What's your story? And what were you and Miss Kathleen up to? Watch her face right here. Watch her. She's deep in thought. She knows she's got a problem here. She's thinking about the questions he just asked her. She's trying to figure out what is going on. I suspect the smile is nervousness. She's trying to hide that she's uncomfortable. Let's see if there's any shame or regret. No, it just looks, she's thinking. See her problem solving? She shook her head yes, even. She liked that thought.
I've lost all my boards. Lisa?
They're up here.
Oh, they're up there? Okay. You would agree with me from their personal knowledge that in November of 17, Harry and Kathleen McLean met on the mic. It was November 17, right?
I believe so.
And in March of 18, Kathleen McLean and her 3 children moved into his home, right?
Yes.
You recall talking to her about her moving into Dover and using the word, "it's a good score." You recall that?
A
The
good
sarcastic
score.
comment? Yes, that
Another joke?
sounds right.
Okay, so what did you mean by it's a good score? Congratulations, moved to Dover.
I think when
A good score. It's a good score. A man that you fall in love with. That's a good score. Or congratulations. I'm so happy for you, my friend. I'm telling y'all, this was a grift. They set this guy up and they drove him into the ground.
people get into a good relationship that they're happy with and they feel like they finally met the right person, which is how Katie felt, that's a good score.
No
How she
bullshit.
felt.
Okay.
Yes.
And so the good score, somehow the town of Dover and the house and everything just kind of was on the periphery of that?
I don't know. I'm from Wellesley, so I don't really judge towns. There's all kinds of people in towns.
Okay.
Oh, you're from Wellesley, which is like low SES. So what? You don't know the English language? When you say that's a good score, that is usually related to somehow profiting. Wow, this is bad.
So she moves in March of 18, and you knew in December of 19 that he had consulted with a divorce lawyer because she told you, right?
Objection.
Sustain, rephrase it, please.
All right, we have in mind the close relationship that you guys had and texting on a constant basis. You'd agree with me that everything from shoes to skirts to makeup to blush to eyelashes, everything you guys would talk about in your texts, right?
We would talk about anything and everything.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. When you would talk about that, you also talked about kids, issues with the children, activities, things of that nature, you would share with
Yes.
us, right?
Mhm.
And when Harry, 5 months, less than 5 months after they got married, went to see a divorce lawyer, you were the first person she told, right?
I don't know if it was the first person, but she told me
She
yes.
told you that, right?
Yes.
What did she tell you? What was the state of mind when she told you that?
She was conflicted.
Okay, what does that mean?
She had feelings both ways.
It doesn't matter her feelings, he's the one that went to a divorce lawyer, right? First, 5 months later.
I don't recall the details of him going to the divorce lawyer.
You don't tell us you don't remember your friend telling you that he wanted to get a divorce?
They would have arguments all the time. Couples do. They talk about divorce, but that doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Okay, so if I asked you about that, when did they talk about and what did they talk about divorce? You wouldn't be able to tell me one thing because that is not true, correct?
Objection.
I'm not
One
sure.
second.
I feel like you're
One
putting
second,
words in my mouth.
excuse me, ma'am.
And watch her breathing. Her breathing is going to change noticeably.
When there's an objection, you don't answer, okay?
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. So the objection is sustained. Please rephrase the question.
So, at the end of January of 2020, you knew that he was going to get a divorce, right? You at least knew that.
I did not know for sure what his plans were. I had never spoken to him about it.
Things changed.
Yes.
You knew he started a divorce, right? She told you.
They talked about divorce a couple different ways.
Hey, please focus. They, nothing. Her told you got a divorce, right? That's all.
Yes.
And as a result of that, then she took action and got a divorce lawyer of her own, right?
Sure.
And then she went and got a restraining order against him and got him thrown out of his house, right?
That's not how I recall the timeline of events.
Well, it was February 3rd that she got the restraining order. It was the end of January, she signed a divorce lawyer. Well, before she
They got married in December, the end of December, right? By the end of January, 1st of February, she called and told the cops that he was violent against her and needed to be kicked out of his house.
started with.
Can you restate your question?
Sure. February 3rd is when she got the restraining order throwing him out of his house. Okay? Yes?
Okay.
And it was in the end of January 30th that he had the divorce lawyer send her a letter saying he wanted a divorce 5 months after they were married. You know that, right?
Yes.
And it was February 3rd, after he got the divorce lawyer, that she went and got the restraining order to throw him out of his house, right?
Objection asked and answered.
No, overall.
I'm over here.
I didn't know if you objected.
It wasn't objection, it was overall, so you can answer the
Well,
question.
please
Trying to be good.
object.
Sorry. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So now, when he was out of the house, you know that she stayed in the house, right?
Yes.
With the 3 kids. And one of the questions the DA asked me was about the car, right?
Yes.
And which car was it that she had?
She would use either one.
I know
She had the Jeep and she had the Mercedes.
Okay, and they were his cats, right?
Yes. I mean, she had 3 kids. So
What about the 3 kids?
depending on how many kids she had to cart around.
Wait a minute. He says they were his cars, right? Like he owned both of them. They were his cars. She said, yeah, but she had 3 kids. So he didn't ask about the kids. He's just asking about the cars. She is trying desperately to control this narrative. The question is why? It is so odd.
Right.
Yeah, well, his car, right?
I think once you're married, it doesn't become his and hers, but sure.
No, I guess not. Before they got married, he owned the Jeep, right?
Yes.
Before they got married, he owned the Mercedes, right?
Yes.
Mercedes was over $150,000, right?
I don't know how much it costs.
He liked to drive a Mercedes, right?
I'm not sure. Is this
Who
relevant?
paid for the car while he was out?
Oh,
Get him over here.
she said, is this relevant? You're not the attorney, honey.
Who paid for the car when he was out down in Florida during the pandemic? Who paid for the car?
Same.
Look at her breathing. Her breathing's starting to get real
Do you
fast
recall
and
moving
shallow.
on? Now it's after the restraining order was issued and Harry was out of the house around February 2020, having conversation about him being out of the house, but he wanted to live in the basement. Do you recall that conversation?
Yes, I do.
And he basically just asked if he could please move back in the house and stay in the basement, at least because of concerns with the pandemic, right?
Yep, I remember that.
And she said no, right?
I don't know if the restraining order had been lifted. I don't think that was allowed, but they did talk about it.
Right. But as far as her agreement or not agreement, you know from a text that she sent you at that time frame that we talked about, that she said no, LOL. She wouldn't let him move into the basement. It's his house.
I think there was an issue about how they were communicating and getting along at the time, and there needed to be a barrier, and that's what she felt.
How would they communicate? They weren't communicating and getting along at the time. He was out of the house in Florida and she's living in his house with the 3 kids
So why would he move in the basement then? I don't know.
because he had nowhere to live. He's living in a trailer.
Objection.
Sustained. Next
But if they weren't talking, why would he move in?
Yeah.
It's
It's his
confusing me,
house.
sorry.
It's his house. The lady she's there for 5 months. Literally, she got a marriage certificate and he's out of the house within 8 weeks. Does that seem spooky and strange to anyone? It's a good score. It's a good score. Oh my gosh.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Reddington.
Around March into April of 2020, you knew that she knew that he was going back to Germany.
Yes, I knew he was taking a trip to Germany.
And in fact, that he was going to Germany and he had a job there. She knew that, right?
I don't know if he had a job there, but there was a job he was exploring in Germany, yes.
Okay, and she knew that he wanted to go back to Germany for good, right?
It was an option that he was trying to figure out, yes. As far as I know, he had an option in Florida as well.
And then, but he didn't want to stay with her. He wanted to leave. He wanted to get divorced. He wanted to go back to Germany, not go to Florida with her or anything, right?
That was not my
Thank-
understanding.
Sorry, ma'am. Just, you need to wait a second before you answer the question.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. You don't have to be sorry. Just wait a second to see if there's an objection to the question. So the objection is sustained. Next question.
In March of 2020, you would have your husband, Vincent, is it?
Yes.
And Vincent can speak German, right?
He can speak 4 languages.
So that's wonderful. Is the answer yes, he can speak German?
One of the languages he can speak is German.
Yes. And she, on a number of occasions, would ask you to have Vincent interpret German messages that she received, or he received from Germany, thinking that they were women, right?
I don't think it was that. It was just a language barrier, and to be able to translate
So
would be helpful.
in March, at the end of March of 2020, you recall her texting you, he's talking to a woman from Germany early. Can you please have Vincent look at it?
If you don't understand a language, the normal thing is to translate it. So that's what she asked him to do. Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Do you recall her at the same time frame, moving from March into April, that she determined from looking at his phone, he's on Twitter, on the phone, texting like cheating in my face? Do you recall her saying that to you?
I don't recall that specific one, but I
So the timeline, they get married in December. By the 1st of February, she's got a restraining order on him that kicks him out of the house, his house. She's now living completely scot-free with her kids in his house and driving a $150,000 Mercedes. No cash. They've been together literal weeks. And then by February, the end of February, March, she is passing on notes to Vanessa's husband saying, he's cheating on me in my face. Wait a minute. What? You're the one that got the restraining order and had him kicked out of the house. What do you mean he's cheating on you? This is the most convoluted, curious story.
I do recall that there were conversations about cheating.
Involving both of them, right?
Sustained.
You remember when they, back when they got married, you remember they went to Las Vegas?
Yes.
You remember that it was a, what do you call it, a conference? I think like a international conference or something. I think it was on aging.
I believe Harry was going to a conference and Katie went along.
Okay. And he was speaking at this conference on whatever the topic was, right?
Mhm.
And it was when they were in Las Vegas that they got married, right?
Yes.
And that was, you know, everybody was pretty happy about that for a period of time, right?
Of course.
And then she texted you that within 3 weeks that he kicked her out again, go look for a house, is what she told you. You remember that?
I remember that they weren't getting along and there was an option that she would have to look for another home.
Well, it wasn't an option because back before May of 2020, it was his home, right?
No, over.
You knew he owned the home, right?
Well, she put money into the home too.
Like
So
what?
she put money from her home sale into the home and she also helped build the garden in the back.
She didn't put a nickel into that home.
That's not my
Well, it may
understanding.
not be your understanding, but she didn't put a nickel into your home.
That's not my understanding.
Ma'am, you need
So, sorry.
to disregard that last answer, Jarvis.
You recall that she told you, moving
Does she look worried? Does her body language, does she look really concerned? Why is she and Kurt, why are they so anxious? Was this an organized grift?
Disregard that last answer, Jarvis.
You recall that she told you, moving forward again to, with the wedding, that she was excited that she got married and there was no pre-up, is what she told you. Prenup, I'm sorry, not a pre-up, prenup. I mean, you remember that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And she was happy about that, right?
I think most women are happy when there's not a prenup.
And why is that?
I think it just means that you're in love.
Is that I don't think that's what a prenup means. I think a prenup means, yes, I love you and I want to share my life with you, but I've got accumulated wealth and I don't want you to instantly get half of it. So you're not going to get half of it. That's what it means. Why are you suddenly talking about being in love like this is a Disney musical?
You're in love.
Yeah, I believe in love. And so did Katie.
And you recall having a conversation with her in April of 2020, where you were telling her, I think you're referring to the music thing with the surgery, a story about him going to a little boy to talk him into having kidney surgery. You teared up telling her about that, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you recall that she indicated again at that same time frame that she texted you that she was determined to move home to Germany? He was determined to move home to Germany. Remember that?
I think that was one of the options for him. I think he had others as well. So it's
Okay, so
the way
I'm
you're
asking
asking the
about the
question.
text, ma'am, not what you think other options were, might have been, could have been, should have been. She was upset and told you that he was determined to move, and I quote, determined to move home to Germany, is the text she sent you. Do you remember that?
I do.
All right. Do you recall furthering in that topic that she then texted you that he had a job offer in Germany and was going to Germany?
I do remember that conversation.
Okay, right? You said that she had a beautiful, cute little house in Sudbury, right?
Yes.
And you agree with me that ultimately went up.
Okay, this gets kind of funny. She describes Katie's house as a beautiful, cute little house. And now the truth is about to come out.
For sale, right?
It did.
You'd agree with me that it was in foreclosure, right?
I do not have that information. I know she was renting it while she was living in Dover.
Okay, do you recall that in fact she described the house to you as shitty and that actually the basement was flooded right when she was trying to sell it?
I don't believe that certain homes are shitty and certain homes are not, but that might be a conversation someone has when they're frustrated, which I can understand. There was a water.
Vanessa, you don't think that some houses are shitty and some houses are not shitty? What? There's some pretty great houses out there, Katie. And there are some real bad houses. Just ask Jay. Okay. There are some terrible houses out there. Why would she answer like that? Why would she say, well, I don't think houses are shitty or not shitty? What? Excuse me. Honey K has a shitty, cute little house, a shitty, beautiful, cute little house for sale. This is so odd. What's happening here, guys? Like, what are your hypotheses? This is so unusual. And they're saying the basement was flooded, right? It was a house that was in disrepair. It's in ill repair. It was a terrible albatross around Katie's neck, and she was in foreclosure. It was a disaster. So she walks away from a nightmare house into a $500,000 gorgeous McMansion, and she's going to instantly get half the value of the house. What? This had to have been on purpose. It had to have been on purpose, the way these guys are acting. And don't remember, this is a good score. What were these two ladies doing? Were they just running around looking for high net worth men to trick into marriage? Was that their grift?
Like French drain in the basement. That might have been what she was referring to.
Yeah, it was a flooded basement.
I do recall that conversation.
Would you agree with me that there were a plethora of texts from Katie McLean to you talking about having a drink, I'm feeling tipsy, I'm trashed, I'm hammered, I'm hungover. You asked, has your drinking been okay? Do you recall that?
Objection.
Sustained.
So there's tons of references in Katie's conversations with Kurt about how drunk she was, or how hungover she was, or how weird, crazy monkey sex she's having. And now the same conversations were happening with Vanessa. This is a disaster. Like this, Dr. Tuerk seems like he was a dumbass. He seems like he got snowed. He was tricked. He let his guard down. For some reason, he trusted these people. And you just got to ask yourself, why would an intelligent man allow this group of grifters to come into his life? Yes, wake up. Yes.
Do you recall her indicating that she had, and she texted you, and this would be right around the same time that they were supposedly reconciling, that she had a new app to track his location? Do you recall her telling you that?
I do not recall.
Why did she look up at the ceiling? I love that when they go to such a dramatic length to pretend about their lie. Watch her.
Do you recall her indicating that she had, and she texted you, and this would be right around the same time that they were supposedly reconciling, that she had a new app to track his location? Do you recall her telling you that?
It's like, are the answers up in the clouds? What's happening there? Wow, this is really something. Notice she's breathing now very fast and very quick.
I do not recall.
Why? Why did she do
supposedly reconciling, that she had a new app to track his location? Do you recall her telling you that?
Okay, that should be the thumbnail, right? That should be the thumbnail. That's it right there. Kurt was always flirting with Katie while she was married. Yeah, I mean, before they were married. Wild crazy monkey sex is what she admitted to. And that made him stupid? What? He lost some IQ points because Katie was a beautiful, woman and was willing to do wild crazy monkey sex, right? Men, come on, wake up here. Don't be tricked. Don't be the Adam to her Eve. Don't do that nonsense. Remember who you are. Keep your dignity about you. I thought when you look up to the side with your eyes, that's an indication of lying. Am I right about that? This is Ms. Machete. How are you today? All right. Yeah, look at this look on her face. Is this woman telling the truth? Do we have to be body language experts? What more do you need to know? Just look at that. That is too funny. I am definitely going to change my thumbnail. That is great. That is so funny.
I do not recall.
Good answer.
Do you recall her indicating, wow, Dr. Tuerk apparently can perform surgery from Home Depot? Do you recall that one? It's kind of funny.
Same.
Did she ever tell you that she used the tracking app, his location? You gotta wait till she objects.
Okay, overruled. She can answer that.
Okay, you can answer.
I answered this already. They both had tracking apps. So yes, both of them had tracking apps.
Okay. But you don't recall her indicating that he was at Home Depot on one occasion? No?
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
What are we going to do? We just going to now pretend that we are having trouble with the English language? Like what? And the way she's communicating with the prosecution, what is happening here? What's the story? What's the story here?
Moving up again, right to when they were.
Now, if you're a body language expert, What would, let's say, Chase Hughes, what would Chase Hughes say is going on as she chews her lips and she holds her mouth tightly clenched in place? What's happening here? She has got quite an attitude. I got to look this up and get a brief summary. Ms. Machete, you have got to watch the two videos, day one and day two. This is the craziest case. It's crazy. And tomorrow will be day 3 of the trial. But there is something, a bunch of grifters that are scared to death about something.
We're at the hotel and allegedly reconciling. Everything was great. That she was texting you, and I quote, "I looked through Harry's cell last night." Recall her telling you that?
Yes.
Okay, why is she saying yes and shaking her head no? Why?
Reconciling. Everything was great. That she was texting you, and I quote, "I looked through Harry's cell last night." Recall her telling you that?
Yes.
Do you recall her texting you and saying, "I'm so happy I have Vanessa to look at the phone"? That'd be you, Vanessa, right?
I don't recall that one.
She used your name, Vanessa. All these other things obscure. You say, "Oh yeah, I remember. We were besties." But when she starts actually using your name in the text, now you don't remember? What?
Do you recall her right before the May alleged reconciliation that she texted you for help to find out who is this Stephanie bitch? It's his type, fake blonde, fake tits. Do you recall her texting you that?
Sustained.
I do not recall.
Sustained.
Okay.
She is so nervous. Did you see how hard she swallowed?
Sustained.
I do not recall.
Sustained.
Okay.
Do you recall while they were ostensibly reconciling that she indicated to you that she was still going out on dates with the dentist from New Hampshire?
Objection.
Overruled.
When they were separated?
Do you recall the dentist from New Hampshire?
Yes, I don't recall the timeline you're
Okay, so
speaking.
the answer is yes,
Yes.
right? His name was Michael, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in May of 2020, she told you in a text that she went out on a date with the dentist again, right?
Objection.
Overruled.
A dentist, another high net worth individual. These are a bunch of grifters.
Yes?
Yes, they were separated. So,
Yes, the answer is yes, right?
Yes.
I know you want to say they were separated, but you knew that you went on a date in May of 20 with the dentist Michael from New Hampshire.
Okay.
Okay. And again, towards the very end of that time frame, she indicated to you that he intended, again, talking about he had the job. Now it's not possibly. He had the job in Germany and he will be leaving. She told you that, right? She was upset.
well, yes, it also wasn't the amount of money that he would like. So
Oh, so it wasn't enough money?
that was for him to decide. He was still
Right, so she
deciding.
knew how much it was though, right?
Objection.
No,
It wasn't an, it wasn't.
Sustained. Sustained. Next question.
Do you remember her indicating or asking, and again at the time frame of the end of April, beginning of May, can you see if he's back on Instagram and start printing them out? Do you recall her asking if you had help for that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall that one of the text messages that going back to February 2019, on February 20th of 2019, that you sent a text to Harry and he was asking you about why Katie was having, you're objecting.
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, can I see it, sidebar?
Yes.
Why would they need to start printing out pictures? Look at that look on her face. It's like the jig is up. It's fixing to all come out. Wow, that is fascinating. What do you guys think? What do you guys think is happening here? She clearly does not look comfortable, right? Am I right about that? What in the hell? My goodness. Blink, blink, blink. Miss Machete, what is happening? We got some bushy eyebrows going on too. I must be doing something wrong. I just go out with people based on whether they're nice to me, right? It is MCOS. Look, she even knows. She's grinning. Oh my God. Look at that. Is that a dishonest face or what? Man. Crafty Nana. This is
Now,
weird.
when you spoke to the police after you went to the house on May 20th, May 15th, I'm sorry. You knew at that point that Harry had signed a deed transferring his house over to her and him jointly, right?
Yes,
And she told you that, right?
yes.
And she was pretty excited about that, right?
Was part of his
One
will,
second.
so it made
Wait,
sense
wait,
to
You
me.
need to wait, ma'am, until there's an objection, so just wait to answer. Rephrase the question, sustain.
So you knew that, or she had told you that he transferred or put her on the deed to the house, right?
Yeah, it made sense to me because
So the answer is
that's
yes?
part of his will.
Madam, why would it be a part of his will if he is actively trying to divorce her? He wasn't even with her but 8 weeks before they started splitting up again. He didn't want to marry her. He kept making the date and breaking it and making it and breaking it. He was being manipulated. Something in his brain was telling him, don't do this, Ingolf. These women are not to be trusted. And he let the little head do the thinking for the big head.
It was what?
Yes.
It was his will? Okay. And when you were speaking with the police, this popcorn that you made reference to, when did that come about, that you were going to have that code with Kurt?
We were nervous.
Sorry?
We were nervous
I'm
about,
not asking about you being nervous. I said when. It's a W word. When?
okay,
When was it?
so we were trying to figure out when they were reconciling it.
When was it that you decided to use this?
January, February,
Before Harry
March.
moved back into the house.
November.
So that would be around April.
Okay. It was really just a week before you talked to the police. that you
Wow.
decided to use this popcorn. You told the police about popcorn. A week before, just a week.
Okay.
7 days.
I don't know. I'd have to check.
So when you were speaking to Lieutenant or Detective Kwiatkowski, and pursuant to this investigation on Friday, May 15th, the police spoke to you, okay? I can show you the report if you want. It's got coffee all over it, but I can show it to you if you want.
Okay.
And that they interviewed you about your relationship with Katie McLean, right?
Right.
Remember that? And you've had a chance to review your statement to the police, right? It's only 2 pages. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated to them that this past week, you created the code word popcorn. So that would have
God,
been, like
so ridiculous.
May 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, something like that,
It
right?
was a setup. It was
I
all
would
a
have
setup,
to check
wasn't
the
it?
time.
So if you want me to show you where you told the police it was this past week? Have in mind you were speaking to them on May 15th? I can show you where it says that.
I agree. We came up with popcorn before Harry moved in. Yes.
Right, you told the police when your memory was a lot fresher than it is today.
It was 5 years
later.
ago.
Right,
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
That in fact, it was this past week that you created the code word popcorn.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
I have nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Please be careful. There is a light there.
Thank you.
Careful.
Thank you.
She's going, thank goodness that is over. Well, Vanessa, thank you for that.
Okay, so Commonwealth want to call the next witness?
Yes, Your Honor, the Commonwealth would call Sergeant Todd Wilcox, please.
All right, man, that was something else. What did you guys think of that? Any conversation about that? Hey, Lise. Wait, who was with who? Polyamory again? No, I think it was more crazy monkey sex. I don't think there was any amory involved, Lise. I think they were doing the stanky leg. That's what I think they were doing. The jig is up, girl. It was painful, cause I wonder if she was messing with the money and the insurance. I definitely think that they were trying to financially benefit from the doctor. Yeah, I do think so. Okay, they've got one more witness here. We can listen to him.
We got it on the sheet by rule. It's just going alongside that, obviously. Actually noted for the record, but I got it on
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
It did me
Thank
too,
you.
Miss
Good
Chete.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your full name, spelling your last name for the record?
Todd Vincent Wilcox, Wilcox.
Are you currently employed?
Yes,
How?
I'm with the Dover Police Department as a sergeant,
How long have you been with the Dover Police Department?
31 years,
How long have you been a sergeant?
almost 25.
What are some of your duties as a sergeant?
To supervise, support the officers that I work with, work on the daily operations, setting up sector assignments and stuff like that.
What shift are you currently working?
Monday through Friday, 7 to 3.
Turning your attention to February 3rd of 2020, were you working on that day?
Yes, I was.
In what capacity?
I was working patrol, but also as a shift supervisor,
What shift?
7 to 3.
And you said you were also a shift supervisor?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Exactly what I said. I just in charge of like the daily operations, supervising, supporting my officers.
So when you come to work, are you in a uniform?
Yes,
And do you drive a marked cruiser?
yes, I do.
At some point on February 3rd of 2020, did you respond to 29 Valley Road in Dover?
Yes, I did.
Why was that?
We were going to be serving a restraining order
Who were you serving the restraining order to?
to Ingolf Tuerk.
Was he the homeowner at 29 Valley Road?
Yes, he was.
Were you able to serve that restraining order on that day?
Yes, we did.
Do you see Ingolf Tuerk in the courtroom?
I do.
Could you please point to him and describe an article of clothing that he's wearing?
He's sitting right there wearing a blue suit, a blue tie.
Could the record please reflect identification?
Yes.
Thank you. What was his demeanor when you served him with the restraining order?
He was upset, sad, disappointed.
How long were you at the residence?
Probably half hour, 40 minutes.
Did you go inside?
Yes,
And when you left, did the defendant also leave the residence?
yes, he did.
Turning your attention to May 15th of 2020, were you working on that day?
Yes, I was.
In what capacity?
Patrol and also as a shift supervisor.
And you've already told us what that means. So you were, on that day, you were in your uniform and in a marked cruiser?
Yes,
What shift were you working on that day?
7 to 3, 7A to 3P.
Did you have occasion to return to 29 Valley Road on that date?
Yes, we did.
Approximately what time, if you remember?
It was 12, a little after 12, 12:15, 12:20
And would that be 12 p.m.?
a.m. Yes, I'm sorry, p.m.
Okay. And why did you go to 29 Valley Road on May 15th of 2020?
To conduct a well-being check.
Can you explain to us a little bit about what a well-being check is?
Well-being check is where we get called or requested to respond to a certain residence or could be a car to check on a person, their well-being. Our main purpose is to check on them, locate them, and render any type of assistance that we can.
On a weekly basis, how many well-being checks do you think you do?
Weekly, maybe 1, 2,
How often have you conducted well-being checks in your career?
many.
What did you do when you arrived at the residence on that date?
I arrived, I was the third officer to arrive. The Chief McGowan and Officer Cash had arrived prior to me. They were speaking with Stephen Roca, Ms. McLean's ex-husband, in the driveway.
And if I could just stop you right there. I'm sorry, you just answered my question. You encountered them when they were in the driveway?
Yes.
And when you approached them, what happened?
I was informed by Chief McGowan and Officer Cash that they had concern that Ms. McLean may be in the master bedroom. The door was locked. Mr. Roca had expressed some concern that she may be in there injured.
Then what happened?
We entered the house, went directly to the master bedroom. The door was locked. Officer Cash forced entry using a Halligan tool.
Can you explain to us what a Halligan tool is?
It's a multi-purpose tool that we use to gain entrance into different situations. We carry them in our cruiser. Each cruiser has one.
Were you able to gain entry?
Yes, we were.
And you said it was the other officer that used the Halligan tool, is that right?
Yes.
In what order were you entering the bedroom?
I was the last, the third.
So the officer went in first, and then Chief McGowan, and then you?
Yes.
Where did you go into the bedroom?
I went in and to the left to where the closet is.
Can you briefly describe the size of the bedroom?
It's a large bedroom. When you entered, the bed was straight off a little bit to the right, and then there's a walk-in closet on the left and a master bath as you wrap around to the right.
Was anyone in the bedroom when you entered? No. Approximately how long were you in the bedroom?
10 minutes, 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes.
And after you left the bedroom, what happened?
We searched the rest of the house.
Approximately how long do you think you were in the house?
We were there probably half hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
And after that, did your involvement in this investigation end?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any more?
I have no further questions.
Yes.
Lloyd,
Good morning.
so you were there on a well-person check or well-being check, right?
Yes.
There were a number of police officers from various departments, perhaps?
At the time I was there,
First time, just one? Dover?
it was just over, yes.
Okay. And you indicated that one of your brother officers had used the Halligan tool to enter the bedroom.
Yes, sir.
That's the thing that forces the door and splinters the door and things like that, right?
It can, yes.
And it did in this case. It splintered the door and you guys were able to open it and go in.
Yes, sir.
And when you went in, one of the things that you saw would be the bed in the master bedroom, right? Do you remember seeing the bed?
I did not, I saw it, yes.
Okay. I'm going to approach you, sir, with item Mr. Max, his exhibit for ID, excuse me. Do you recognize that as being the bedroom?
One second. Was it marked for ID?
We haven't had a chance to mark them for ID yet this morning.
Why don't we, can we just do it right now? Nancy, what's the next letter? Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. See for ID. Do you recognize that, sir?
So to be honest with you, I
don't, that's all
I
right.
don't. I mean, this has happened 5 years ago. I came in from, if this was the way the bedroom was set up, I would have come in from the other side.
The other side, maybe over here.
Yeah, I would have entered in here if the bed was, if that,
I recognize that.
I don't.
It's okay, fair enough. You have to,
Did you?
do you have any memory of anything of entry use when you went into the bedrooms, like broken glass or?
Absolutely not, no.
And you continued on with your investigation for well person? Okay.
Yes.
It's okay, thank you.
What was the purpose of going into the bedroom?
To find Miss McLean, to offer any type of assistance. We were just trying to locate her.
And once you realized she wasn't in the bedroom, what did you do?
We exited the bedroom and then searched the rest of the house and then the exterior of the house.
Approximately how long do you believe you were in the bedroom?
5-10 minutes at most, because the only thing I remember is having dispatch call the phone to see if we could hear it ringing while we were in there, and that may have taken a couple minutes, several minutes.
And you didn't make any other observations of the bedroom except for the fact that Ms. McLean was not in there?
Exactly, yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
When you were looking in the house, would you recall you guys didn't go in the basement area at all?
So I did not go into the basement. We kind of went into different directions. One of the officers did. I did not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you may step down. Thank you.
It didn't really, Critter Watcher. I mean, in my
Ms. Beatty, do you
opinion,
want
it
to call your
didn't.
next witness?
May I approach, please?
Hey,
Yes.
DB, good to see you. Good to see you. They're trying to dodge first degree by saying it was fight or flight under intoxication and panic. Yeah, it's like something like kind of like temporary insanity or something like that. Okay, so that's it for that day. So we've basically seen the most instrumental witnesses so far. We've had day 1 and day 2. I'm not gonna go. I don't think I want to go and do the opening statements, though certainly they're both very short, so it'd be easy for you guys to just look it up and see. But for him, his defense is that he was under duress, that there was this unbelievable set of circumstances and she was manipulating him, and in the midst of that she had a glass with like full of ice, and all of a sudden out of nowhere she got angry and she hit him with that glass in her hand on his cheekbone and orbital bone. So she hit him just as hard as she could, and with one hand his response was, and he did have bruising and a cut and everything, and with one hand he reached out and grabbed her neck, and then she fainted, and he was in shock that she was dead, that it happened super fast. So he probably crushed her esophagus. He probably cut off the airway, and even when he released, it was real, it was no longer functional. So it's horrible. It was a horrible moment. It was a horrible event, and nothing excuses her death, like nothing. But wow, is he telling the truth? Were these people exploiting him and playing mind games? Did they ruin his business, ruin his professional reputation, steal his wealth, steal his home? They basically, she wiped him out in less than 2 years. It would be very easy to understand, not approve. It doesn't mean that I approve of it. It doesn't mean that it's okay. Not at all. But it does give meaning to how he could lose his temper if this is true. If they were running a grift against him, and in his stupidity, he believed her. I mean, it is really something, isn't it? It's really scary. I'm telling you, when you're a good person, when you're a principled, ethical, moral person, when you look at other people, you expect them also to be like you. Now, if you are a bad person, you're a liar, you manipulate people, you exploit people, you're a grifter, you drug addict, then you look at other people and you think that they do those things as well. So what you believe is, the people that you accept into your life, that is directly dependent on how you yourself interact with the world. So this man was a celebrated surgeon, and he did an awful lot to help other people. And he was basically generally well loved. The people that knew him said that he was a great guy. I mean, it's a weird, very, very in control, mild mannered, calm guy. And, he made these new friends. And I guess he thought they were honest too. But what if they weren't? What if they were liars and exploiters and cheaters like some of the people that we know about here on YouTube? What if that was the truth and he was being targeted? All of a sudden he looks up and the life that he had built over decades was being systematically dismantled. Would that be enough to push you to the edge if you felt like you had been wiped out, that you had nothing left of your original life? So I don't know, man. This is a crazy case. Her autopsy should tell if it was close to instantaneous. I don't know, Magic Star. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. I do think as large as he is and as small as she was, I do think that he could choke her with one hand. Bad women with an agenda are capable of unspeakable evil manipulation. Absolutely true, DB. I mean, look at some of these grifters on YouTube. Some of these women that do the most manipulation and lying are the ones who'll say, "Oh, you're a grifter. You're a grifter." When in truth, they're the ones that have their PayPal flashing all over the screen. They're telling tremendous lies about people to manipulate their subscribers. And they are those people that are willing to lie for so little, not even lying for survival, just for bullshit, just YouTube bullshit nonsense. They are capable of unspeakable evil. They are. Yeah, exactly, Magic Star. And, his fine was only $150,000, which is very strange. That is a low, low amount. There was no restitution. And he was given like a plan to continue to work as a doctor in Massachusetts. So it was a small mistake. It wasn't a big fraud like what happened with Anthony Toddett. Remember him in Florida? It wasn't that kind. It was a Medicare billing error is what it was. And we were thinking, well, maybe they did some erroneous billing and had the money when the direct deposit came in, had the money routed to her checking account or a different banking account. There's something strange. You don't become a world-renowned surgeon who is chief of the urology department at Massachusetts' biggest hospital system and then do something stupid like a couple of erroneous, bills to Medicaid. No, you're an idiot if you do that. That is the stupidest thing that I've ever heard of. Something very curious happened. So we just have to keep watching the trial. We know what we know, but man, I think there is a ton that we do not know. So these are the kind of cases that I like. I don't mean I like them because they're good. These are the kind of cases that I like to watch because there's mystery. It's mysterious, isn't it? Sounds like he was under a lot of stress. He could have made those billing mistakes because his home life had him preoccupied. Well, okay, so that's another point, Magic Star. Surgeons don't do their own billing, right? You have office staff that does your billing. So it's odd. It's very strange. Hopefully, we're going to find out more about what happened with the billing problem. That would help a lot in terms of the way that I saw this. if he's not, make no mistake about it, he's not sitting at the computer putting in the little numbers and the proper coding. He's not doing that. He does his note. He gives his diagnoses code. When they do the surgery, then they outline the different procedures, and each procedure will have its own billing code. And then when he finishes that note and he's put those codes in, that then is going to go to his accounting department. Maybe the hospital was running the billing. I don't know if he was on staff at the hospital or if he had privilege there and he was a single practitioner. I don't really know what his business structure was. If he was on staff, if he was getting if he was just like getting a salary and he didn't take office or anything, he just worked at the hospital, then his bills, after he finished writing a note and itemizing all the procedures and the codes, then that bill would have gone to the hospital accounting and they would have done the billing, right? If he is a single practitioner and he's operating at the hospital with hospital privileges, then it's possible that he would have had his own accountant and then some of that would have been charged to the hospital, but he would have had his own accountant and they would have done the billing. So he wouldn't have made a couple of silly mistakes billing like that. That for a $150,000 fine, that wasn't a lot. Not from the United States government. It's not. Well, it wasn't the U.S. government though. It was the state. It was the state insurance, public insurance. So there's some curious questions here. You know what I mean? And this lady, Vanessa Pettigrew, she worked at the hospital with him. She was in the operating room with him. She may have had access to make some erroneous charges. She was a very jealous person. That emotion could be so destructive in its unrelenting, tormenting accusations. Absolutely. Jealousy's a terrible thing. It was Medicare, I believe, Magic Star. All right. So, weird case, right? And very mysterious, tragic beyond words. And so, we'll have to, he definitely, the defense, he has already admitted that he did it. He told them exactly where to find her body. He cooperated. So I think that they're going for like reduced charges, right? So something that like a manslaughter type charge. So he's already had 5 years of time served. So if he wins this and he gets a manslaughter charge rather than murder, he could legitimately be out in even 3 years. I have no idea what you said, Christo. Okay. So you guys, I hope that you have a wonderful Sunday evening. I know that some of the United States is under some pretty severe thunderstorms, tornadoes. I think parts of Florida have bad tornadoes right now. And then up around the Great Lakes, I think it's pretty bad. So I hope everybody stays safe and know where your safe room is. And the rest of you, well, we will see you not tomorrow. I know for sure I will not be on tomorrow, but I'll be here on Tuesday. So you guys watch the trial tomorrow. Y'all can get me caught up. And then on Tuesday, we'll do another review video of the most interesting witnesses. Okay? All right. And remember, Lori Vallow, April the 2nd, they should start actual jury questioning. And we believe that we will be having opening statements on April the 7th. Mark your calendars. Monday, a week from tomorrow, we should be back in swing with Lori Vallow acting as her own attorney. Welcome to the Lori Vallow Shit Show.
Well, I'm sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corners, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Barry. True crime's calling and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old buried tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies, the truth is calling and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True Crime Jewels on the YouTube streets. Lights are low, suspense is high. We're chasing truth, we spot every lie. Step into the darkness, hold on tight. Two flashlights out there in the dead of night. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphew's case is high. A boy in Tennessee won't be left behind. From the coldest cases to the ones that shine, true crime's calling and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. We're always watching Barry and waiting for the truth. In the world of crime, we discuss the truth. So hit that play and join the ride on this true crime journey. Join Jewels of Thought and our gemstone family.